What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls? You are on the sidelines with the sideline guys. And today, I'm joined once again for another MMA edition of the show with my guy, the ubiquitous, the absolutely the man who comes forth with malicious intent, the mayor of Maryland himself, my guy, Sean Negron. It's amazing to have my brother back on the show. How is it feeling to join the show after what feels like a months-long hiatus?
I don't think it was months long. I felt like it was like 10 days, but it's all good. It feels good. I'm glad to continue working the MMA game. I think we have a lot to talk about. This is not as exciting as UFC 300. I think we can all agree, but this is still, a numbered card, pay-per-view event. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, not a lot of big names here, but still, I think it's going to be a hell of a show.
Heck yeah, man. As always, we're going to do our best to give you as much notes, tidbits, and information as we can on all of these different fights that we have slated for UFC 301. Really excited to dive right into that. But of course, it's only right that if we got you guys here, that we update you all on what it's like to be a part of this TSG universe, the TSG MMA Dynasty current situations, as well as our standings over the last week. So UFC Housescape 12,011, Matheus Nicolau versus Alex Perez is indeed an event that took place. Unfortunately, we had no coverage here on the show, but excited to be back once again and continue to put things in the rear view mirror. As far as the last event went, I finished the night with our head-to-head picks, going 7-5, while Sean went 8-4, and what was a great week.
Just repeat that for me. I didn't hear that.
And what was a great week for both of us. This man got 1 point and is now sitting at 108 wins, 64 losses, and 3 draws, which is a 61.71 win percentage, while I am sitting much better than Sean is, of course, with 111 wins, 61 losses, 3 draws, 3 no contests, and a 63.43% win percentage for our head-to-head picks. As far as Dynasty, man, shout out Adrian Broner. I'm out here getting cooked, all right? I'm going to make it clear, though, because this man's head grows every time we talk about Dynasty. Like, it fills the screen. So I just want to make this very clear off the top. I'm not doing bad. Like, I'm not doing bad.
Not doing good.
I just got to say, this dude Sean is doing phenomenal when it comes to Dynasty this year. I don't know how his luck hasn't run out yet. Somehow every week he has more fighters than I do. Like, that needs to end sometime soon, right? Like, that can't keep because we have the same amount of fighters, right? Like, you're not cheating, right?
I'm all time, bro. You just have to know who you're picking, and you got to know who's fighting when. And my fighters, I know that they're gonna fight a lot. You pick guys that are kind of washing away, hoping, hopefully they get 1 fight a year, maybe 2. I'm picking guys who are killers. All right, this is why I win in Dynasty.
Hey, man, your fortune changed a little less than 2 weeks ago, and now all of a sudden this man has never made a mistake. You love to see it. But last week's Dynasty rankings went as follows. Sean went 2-2 with both of the fighters he drafted this week losing.
I went. It was not good.
Yeah, shout out to James on top. Absolutely getting wrecked in the first round. You love to see it, but I'm not doing much better. We out here getting cooked too. I went 1-2 with a little bit more of a happy ending. I mean, it sucks that Matheus got knocked out like that, because I think that just sort of put the penmanship on the kind of prospect that we know he is, man. The guy's got all the talent in the world, but that chin is a little suspect, man, which is always tough to reconcile with. But for our 2024 rankings, I'm sitting at 40 wins, 31 losses, and 3 no contests. Once again, speaking to my level of absolute unluckiness in 2024. Let's get
shit.
misfortune let's get this misfortune correct, okay? There has been 3 no contests this entire year in MMA, and all 3 have come from my Dynasty team. So you love to see that.
Well, you should look at it the other way, is that you're lucky that they didn't turn into losses. So just enjoy them while you still can.
Honestly, that is exactly the reason why you're so much ahead. It isn't about the wins and losses, and we'll see that once we get to the actual rankings. But once again, I am going 40, 31, and 3 with a, if I'm not mistaken, 54.05 win percentage for the year, which is absolutely atrocious. While Sean is sitting at 43 wins, 26 losses, and 1 no contest, bringing him to 61% on the year. And our total Dynasty standings are as follows, which is funny because even though you had a better week this week, I actually came closer to you this week in the overall standings.
You love that win percentage.
Yeah, I mean, it is the only stat that matters. I'm sitting at 87 wins, 55 losses, 2 draws, and 4 no contests all time in Dynasty, which is pretty stellar. 58.78% win percentage, while Sean is sitting at 89 wins, 58 losses. So 3 more losses. You love to see it. 1 draw and 2 no contests, once again, speaking to his fortunes. And a total win percentage of 60.14%. So that is where our standings lie going into this week. I'm excited to continue to put the whipping on you and make it very clear who the fuck the alpha is. So let's get right into it. Our first fight of the night takes place in the flyweight division, the men's flyweight division. We have Alessandro Costa, minus 135, going up against Kevin Borjas. And like always, man, it's only right off the top. I'm going to be taking the lead, taking the reins, grabbing the bull by the horns. I really love this fight. I think both of these guys are very, very skilled for this division. And I think no matter who loses here, I think both of these guys can be looked at as someone to watch in this division. That's the level of skill I think is on display. And I think the odds directly reflect that, right? This is a very close fight. Alessandro Costa is an absolute tank at this weight class. I have no idea how he makes this weight class. Obviously, he's a little, as the people back home say, vertically challenged. But goddamn, horizontally, this man, it takes him a while to pass the TV, if you know what I'm saying. Kevin Borjas, obviously the much taller athlete, has what I like to call much snappier striking with his punches specifically. I think he's definitely more of a Muay Thai boxer more than anything. Obviously mixes in a lot of good knees and kicks when he can to sort of finish combinations, but ultimately he's really going out there trying to hurt you with his hands and land, is particularly that fast 1-2. I think this guy's one of the fastest fighters in the UFC, all jokes aside, when watching his, and that's high praise, when watching his fight specifically against Joshua Van, which is an amazing fight. Please, I implore you, if you haven't seen it, to go back and watch it. One of my favorite fights of recent memory, in all honesty. Dude, this guy's fast as fuck. And there was multiple times in that fight where he landed a combination of punches on Van that you see Van kind of like, they jumping me? Like, oh yeah, how the fuck did I get hit that many times in quick succession? I think this match ultimately comes down to the brute strength of Costa and Kevin Borjas. I think at this stages of their career, unfortunately, I have to lean with Alessandro Costa just because he has the grappling and wrestling upside in this matchup. We've seen Kevin Borjas get taken down by much lesser grapplers in his tenure in the UFC. And I think if this stays on the feet, like I think Kevin Borjas is definitely live to win this, especially the later the fight goes. I think he's going to be the fresher fighter. But ultimately, I just think the absolute girth and tonnage of Alessandro Costa is going to make the difference here. How you feeling about this fight?
Yeah, I have to agree with a lot of what you were saying. I think, Costa carries a lot of power when he throws. And I think, Costa's the one who's going to be able to take this to the ground. I really don't see a way that Borjas kind of handles it past the first round. I think Costa, if he keeps his standing, might go for some body strikes here. I've seen Borjas kind of tire out after those 5 minutes. I'm not trying to say his cardio is that bad, but I've seen him slow down for sure. when it comes to his last couple fights. So I think if Costa can keep it standing, work the body a little bit, kind of, get that gas tank going for Borjas, I think in round 2 he can start getting that wrestling going. And I think I said this to you off air. I see Costa win this in the second round via sub. And I think Costa's just a much bigger athlete. Like you said, I don't know how he makes this division, but I think he is just a much stronger, much bigger guy for this certain fight. And I think Costa takes it.
Next up, we've got the Dynasty Dawn, Sean's golden child, Ismael Bonfim at minus 500, going up against Vinc from Hell, Pichel. Sean, you get to speak about your beloved son. Let's get it.
Well, as I said before, this is why I choose the right people for Dynasty, and this is exactly one of those moments. I see Bonfim. He's a wild fighter. I'm not going to take that away from him. He's pretty wild. He throws with incredible aggression, like right off rip. He's kind of a little. Sometimes I get a little worried with him that he's too quick for his own good, or he throws too hard early on. But I think in this particular fight, this is going to be one where it's kind of overwhelming. Those first 3.5 minutes. And honestly, I see this one going to the point where Bonfim kind of picks him apart really, really early on. And if this fight escapes the first round, I doubt it'll escape the second. I think Bonfim just has much better cardio in this situation. I think he'll piece him up pretty quickly. And I see this one being TKO round 2.
Interesting. I'm not gonna lie to you. If it wasn't for the Brazil buff, right? So let me explain this a little bit. All these fights will be taking place at the Genesee Arena in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. Shout out to Jose Aldo, who we're going to be talking about later, King of Rio himself. But if it wasn't for the Brazil buff, right, the +3 because we're in Brazil and that acai hits differently over there. You know what I'm saying? The acai in Brazil does a little something to these guys. I mean, remember the last time we saw Ismael Bonfim fight in Brazil? He absolutely sent, I was about to call him Xavier, Terrence McKinney into the Darklands with a nasty flying knee after really controlling the fight on the feet and landing some devastating hooks. I love Ismael Bonfim's game. I agree with you, though. I think he is overly aggressive and can put himself in a lot of bad positions here. I love that you gloated about this line because I'm not gonna say I have the stones, right, to pick Vinc Pichel.
I know you don't.
I just got to make this very clear right now. Plus 380 for someone that clearly, in my opinion, has the grappling upside when it comes to control, and clearly the more seasoned fighter in the octagon has shown an ability to overcome adversity, which Ismael Bonfim has not shown at all in his obviously most recent prospect loss that he suffered. Hey, I want to do it, but once again, the Brazil buff. We go in Bonfim with the Brazil buff, and before we know it, I can't wait till we get into the third round, and Sean is just sweating because he's like, "Oh my God, this guy's about to lose against Vinc Pichel." But God damn it, this guy deserves a little bit more respect, in my opinion. A dog, and always
So put some respect on his name. Take him.
Someone that will fight for your money. I think it's very obvious why I'm not, but we can move on. Next up, we got Sean's favorite fight on the card. Dione Barbosa minus 200 going up against Ernesta. Kareckaite. I definitely didn't say that right, but I try to make it whimsical for the people at home. Minus 200 versus plus 180 for Ernesta. Obviously, both of these women having success in the Contender Series and vaulting themselves to this opportunity. When it comes to the actual skills, obviously Ernesta very polished on the feet and has a little bit of that Namajunas in her. It might be the Lithuanian blood, right? Just very, very technical on the outside. You could argue that capital T technical doesn't always mean good things because engagements tend to be a little few and far between. But Dione Barbosa, in my opinion, has clearly fought the more experienced level of competition. Most recently, she ended up having her 2 losses against Josiana Nunes, who we all know as a goddamn fire hydrant at 135, and also a PFL standout, who, in my opinion, is on her way to doing a lot of good things as well, Jonna Bishop. So having that level of experience, although you may look at the records and be like, hey, but this one got 2 losses. Yeah, but the level of competition, in my opinion, is stellar in that way. I'm picking Diana Barbosa to win by most likely control round and eventually finding her way to a submission. I think her grappling is definitely the key to her game, and I think she will be able to get Ernesta down, and from there it's just a matter of time. How you feeling, Sean?
I have to agree with a lot of what you said as well. I think this one is strictly based off of how this fight goes. If this fight stands, I like Ernesta here, and if this fight goes to the grappling or to the wrestling, I think this is Barbosa all day. And I think in the first round, it'll be a little bit of stagnant. I think Ernesta will try to use her kickboxing background to, piece up Barbosa, but I really do feel Barbosa will take this to the ground eventually with her, solid BJJ. And then I think, honestly, I don't see a situation where Barbosa lets, not saying that Ernesta can't find her way back up, but I see a way. But this is sort of, Barbosa is more overwhelming in the wrestling than Ernesta can be to get back up. And I see this one going via sub in the first round for Barbosa.
I love it. Next up at lightweight, we're moving on to Mauricio Ruffy minus 160, going up against one of Sean's favorite fighters, Jaime Mullarkey, plus 143. Sean, we're back at lightweight. What's going on in the brain of yours, behind that toque of yours?
It's this is a tough fight for me, honestly. I've been thinking about this for a couple days, and I think this one's obviously a stand up the entire time. I really don't see this one going to the ground. I think Ruffy's a really good counter striker, and I think Mullarkey's very much more of a grit type of style fighter where he'll kind of push the pace here. I think it'll be a little bit, like I said in the last fight, I think it's going to be a little light-footed, stagnant, kind of just trying to find the open angles in the beginning. I really don't see this one, honestly, going to a finish. I think this one goes all the way, all 15 minutes. But I just find it to be where Mullarkey's going to be a little bit more aggressive. And I see Ruffy with, like I just said, his counter punching being the reason as to why he wins via points. And I'm going to take Ruffy via UD.
God damn, that is a very shocking delineation by you, Sean. I'm going to be real here. I think this is a very clear knockout pick for me. As far as I'm going with Mauricio Ruffy once again, the Brazilian buff comes into play here. Based on their last couple fights, I really like Ruffy's upside. I think what he was able to accomplish on the Contender Series shouldn't be frowned upon at all. I think this guy is all set up to do big things in the UFC, if I'm not mistaken, coming off of a huge win against Raymond Magomedaliev, who is a prospect across the international scene that we should keep our eyes on. I think that guy is really good and was winning that fight largely before things got messy for him. I think Ruffy's just a imposing athlete at this division, and Jaime Mullarkey obviously has the ability to mix things up, but has shown true susceptibility to getting hit cleanly with shots and then wilting from there. So I think this one was pretty easy for me. We going with Mr. Ruffy probably by knockout. So once again, that's why I'm side-eyeing you a little bit here, because I'm like, damn, bro, Jaime Mullarkey going to decision after this man got eviscerated by Nasrat Hakparas. You love to see it, but we keep it in the family, baby. We moving on to the lightweight matchup between Joaquim Silva minus 160, Neto BJJ going up against Drakkar Klose. Whoa, buddy. Whoa, what's going on here? Amateur hour.
That was you.
You hate to see it. No, that definitely wasn't me, man. I went to the lightweight one. But anyway, we've got, all right, Drakkar Klose has had a very strange career. Let me make this very clear. I think if this was a couple years ago, I would confidently pick Klose here. This is someone that has dealt with fragility issues, and that's a nice way to say it. Um, Remember, I don't know if you remember this, Sean. There was an altercation between him and Jeremy Stevens that gave him a concussion that resulted from a push at the weigh-ins. So always concerned whenever stuff like that happens. Obviously, you hate to see anything like that happen to any of these athletes, but his durability is to be called into question there. I think Joaquim Silva's a dog. Really gave Arman Tsarukyan all he could handle in that fight, despite clearly being overmatched early on. I think Joaquim Silva somehow, once again, that Brazilian buff, that acai, somehow his lungs are going to be 2 times larger in this fight. And I think he's going to be not only the more dangerous striker, but the better grappler as well. So give me Joaquim Silva to win the fight wherever it happens. God damn it. I don't know why the lines are as listed. I'm very convicted that Joaquim gets it done. Neto BJJ.
Yeah, I was actually gonna choose Klose just to go against you, but I just think I honestly don't see this one getting out of the first round. I think this is one where the insane power of Silva just absolutely shines in this, and it's tough because you explained it best. I really can't look at Drakkar and think more of like what his potential could have been, and where he might go from here. Like it's hard to look past him now, and I think more this is going to be his kick of Silva's kicks are going to be so threatening. I just see this one. I really don't see this one escaping the first round. And if it does, then I'm a little nervous because I think Silva slows down a lot after the first round. But I just think he's just going to be a much bigger matchup than Drakkar is prepared for. And I think this one, honestly, ends in the first round.
Interesting. I would love to see how that one plays out. Next up at the bantamweight division, we have one of Sean's fighters once again, Gene Silva. I had to triple double check when I saw this shit because I was like, hold on, didn't this motherfucker just fight like a couple days ago? Like, what? But we are here once again. He's going up against William Gomis plus 146. Oh man. I think William Gomis is a much more technical fighter. I think he certainly could, what is the words here, could outclass Gene Silva and win via a clean route to a decision, just keeping him on the outside, landing body kicks, and what is the right word, deterring him from continuing to wade forward. But honestly, man, the more I watch tape on this guy, Gene Silva is just an absolute monster that does not care at all what you do to him because he's going to get to you. And honestly, one of the more exciting fighters to watch tape on, man. This guy just does not give a fuck. And when things get more intense, right, and these exchanges get more wild, this guy just gets more dialed in. I hated to see in one of his fights, man. You even see he's fucking this guy up, right? It could have been stopped like 3 times already. And then he looks at the ref like, bro, are you serious, bro? All right. And then just fucking sends this guy to hell up against the fence. He's all fucking laid out like this. This man just brings the destruction. And I think William Gomis, while his game is predicated on being that outside rangy fighter, I just think it's going to be way too hard for him to stand his ground consistently against someone that just, once again, has that Brazilian buff and is just absolutely relentless when it comes to his approach. I think he's there to be hit, and I think as he continues to move up this division, things are not going to be good for him in that way, especially as we see the grappling get tested a little bit more. But I think this is a perfect matchup to not only showcase his aggression, but showcase his knockout power too. Give me Gene Silva with another TKO. How you feeling, Sean?
Yeah, I initially had it where I might have picked Gomis here because of I think his entire fight is going to be all about distance management. Distance management, and I thought that was going to play a significant role throughout the 15 minutes. But I just don't see a way where you see with Silva that he doesn't get to Gomi eventually. I don't see a way where Gomi can keep Silva on the outside and keep him purposely away for all 15 minutes. I see Silva's just absolutely like a freak of nature. I think this is one where he's just so dominant that even if the fight starts off a little slow and the distance is working well for Gomi, I honestly don't see a situation where Silva doesn't get to him eventually, and then at that point, it's kind of just going for prayers at that point of hoping, Gomi could survive. But it's one of those where if this doesn't end the knockout, I would be surprised. So as much as I even wrote down here that I had Gomi via UD, but the more I think about it, I think eventually Silva gets to him, and even if it's in round 3, it doesn't matter. I think Silva takes it via TKO, so I'm taking Silva.
You'll love it when my analysis sways him, right? To go my way. You gotta join the dark side a little. It's okay. I love that you get the chance to cap this fight first, right? Because you get to say this guy's name. So we've got Elves Brener plus 225 going up against.
Nope.
No, it's not happening.
Nope.
Can we just try? Like, can I get a?
I'll say Orolbai. Was that right?
Yeah, that sounded all right.
All right, I'm not saying the first name. There's no shot.
Right, I'm gonna give it a shot. We got Myktybek Orolbai. Look at that.
Yeah, that's probably not it.
Certainly not how it's pronounced. Definitely. But we are moving up 170, baby. If I'm not mistaken, this is the largest fight to have taken place so far. How you feeling, Sean?
Honestly, this is tough. I think this one is going to be a little bit closer than I think people think. I'm a little surprised at the odds. I have Orolbai taking it via knockout, but I actually thought this fight would have been closer in the first round. I thought this is one where, I could see Brener having, obviously he's had knockouts in UFC. He has a lot of power. They both have a lot of power. But I just thought with how we've seen Orolbai in the LFA, I didn't know how much that would translate over to the UFC after seeing, and you know me, how I talk about, fighters in UFC. The more fights you have here, the better I feel like you could do. And in this case for me, I still think Orolbai is just a more dominant fighter. I think the cardio with the nasty wrestling that he has will be a serious issue. But I think this fight's going to be closer. And while I even said knockout in the second round, I think this is one of those where it could have gone either way until that moment. But I still take Orolbai in the second round.
I like it. Both of these guys have absolute fucking boulders in those fists. I think that was the most exciting part about watching the Orolbai tape for me. I'm like, man, this guy can fucking crack, son. And he puts his shots together in a very intelligent way. Like, this guy's a destroyer. Very reminiscent of Shavkat, but in my opinion, a little bit more polished on the feet. So I'm excited for this guy's over. I think ultimately, though, Elves Brener has played the spoiler many a times before. This is his second fight at welterweight. I'm not gonna lie, this might be the pound for pound ugliest fight on the card. Like, we could say that these guys are a bunch of primitive looking motherfuckers. But I do say usually that is the base for an amazing fight. I think honestly, if Orolbai is able to incorporate his grappling early in this one, I think it'll serve him well. I think the longer he stays on the feet and rolling those dice with Elves Brener, things can get dicey, certainly. But I'm going against the Brazilian buff. I am also going to be picking Orolbai. The man from Kyrgyzstan has it all, and I think he is going to be a name to keep an eye out for, to say the least. So let's get it, Orolbai. I think don't sleep on Elves Brener and his future as well. I think, once again, this is another one of those fights, man, where it sucks to see these two guys go up against one another because their prospects are very high. But Orolbai gets it done, God damn it. I'm going to say by submission. Give me a second round choke of some sort. Next up, we're moving on to one of my favorite fights on the card. We've got the OG. There's something about it. I don't know what it is, man. I will sell all of my possessions and move to Poland for one Karolina Kowalkiewicz, who is plus 340 against Iasmin Lucindo. Her run recently under American Top Team, specifically Pajumpina as her coach, just really turning her game around. Huge fan of, really proud of what she's been able to accomplish. But damn, this is fucked up. Let me just make this clear. This is fucked up matchmaking here, because we went from, oh, this is a really nice story. You know, we're gonna get to learn a lot about these folks, immediately to good luck. You're fighting an absolute demon. I think Iasmin Lucindo has immense skills on the feet for women's MMA, period. And I think that's where this one is the difference maker, in my opinion. I'm going to go Lucindo by TKO in the second round. How you feeling, Sean?
Yeah, I see Lucindo taking it as well, and it sucks too because I've talked about Karolina so many times. And remember in UFC 205, you know, she was undefeated facing Joanna. Both were undefeated from Poland. It was like a hell of a matchup we had, and then she went on that, I think, losing 5 out of 7. And then she won 4 in a row, and now, of course, you know, after winning 4 in a row, she found herself back in the rankings. I was excited to see her back, but I do think that this is a huge mismatch for her. I think this is one of those where, honestly, I think Lucindo has so much power, and I think this is exactly how I see this playing out. And this is probably what everyone else sees, but I'm just going to say it anyway. I see a situation here where Lucindo cracks her with a right hand, she drops, and then Lucindo just goes fucking ballistic with the wrestling, because I think that's the biggest mismatch here of this whole fight. I think Lucindo's wrestling is just going to be completely overwhelming, and then once she has her down, if she doesn't finish her there, she's going to finish her within the next round or two. I'd be very surprised if this does go to a unanimous decision, but I see this one being once it goes to the ground, this is sort of a one-way fight. I think Karolina's getting up there in age. I don't really know if we're seeing her in her prime anymore, even though she has won 4 in a row, which is a great story. I think if Lucindo wrestles and just stays, on top, heavy on top, then I think this is all her. And I could see this going via sub or, like I said, unanimous decision.
I fucking love it. Next up, we've got a featherweight matchup between one Jack Shore at plus 142 going up against Joanderson Brito minus 186. It's very clear Sean just needs to get fired, right? Like after all this, just fire this man, right? You had one job, but it's amazing. I love this matchup. As I dug into the tape, man, I'm like, you know what? Jack Shore, superior control grappler, in my opinion, superior distance striker. Really a fan of the Welshman's game, right? I got to make that very clear. I love what I'm seeing out of Jack Shore. And then I was reminded, oh, yeah, this fight is at featherweight against one Joanderson Brito, who is constantly losing until he wins, right? Is out there absolutely getting wrecked. And then he just reminds you, like, hey, none of this shit matters when you get cracked by an absolute Brazilian demon that clearly cuts off an arm and a leg to make 145. The guy is absolutely a ball of muscle out there and has been able to really pull out some spectacular comeback victories in the UFC thus far. And I think we're in store for the same exact thing. The fact that the odds makers are onto it at this point is kind of funny, because you would think, in my opinion, I thought certainly Jack Shore would be favored before looking at the odds. And I was like, hey, this is a value spot right here. Like, Jack Shore is the better fighter. He's definitely going to be the favorite or whatever. And then I see he's the underdog, and I'm like, damn. So they saw exactly what I saw, which is, yeah, it's gonna be great for Jack Shore until it isn't. God damn it! I think Joanderson Brito is just scary at 145, and even if he ends up losing here, this isn't gonna be an easy fight for Jack Shore. This is really gonna be how much can you wade into hell before things start to fall apart a little bit. So I'm pretty confident in picking Joanderson Brito here, but I don't think it's going to be a pretty win. I think it's going to be tough for him to eventually find that way, but once he does, it's going to be spectacular. So give me Joanderson Brito by submission. I'm going to go with another guillotine modification or something like that in transition. Go ahead, Sean. It is now your turn.
I honestly, I'm going against you because same thing. This is one of those fights where I had to sit with, but I think that the luck will eventually run out here, and I think Jack Shore is better than. I think people discredit him a lot. I think he. Obviously, his record doesn't show that, but I think he is. Obviously, 17-1 is nothing to sneeze at in any way. But I think that his issue, Burrito's issue, is gonna be Shore's wrestling and his grappling here. I think Burrito comes in with the incredible punching power. He's super dangerous when it stands up. But I've seen Burrito, and I saw how much he struggled against Jonathan Pierce in his last fight. With all the wrestling and how much he struggled just to find his way back. And I think Shore's a better wrestler than him. So I think this is one of those where if it's the same sort of style fight, if Shore can find a way to take this down to the ground, I think this is Shore's fight the entire time. I think if you can neutralize all that power and the threat of the stand-up, then I think Shore is for sure has the better cardio in this, but I think that this is his fight to lose, honestly, and that's why I'm picking Shore.
I would love to say I agree because I technically do, right? But yeah, man, the power is scary from one Joanderson Brito. But next up, we're moving on to the division of kings, the division where it doesn't matter what your skills are. God damn it, can you stop a takedown? That is the question. We've got Paul Craig at plus 420. Shout out, Just Blaze versus Caio Borjas, a name that I love to say over and over again. The product out of the Fight Nerds gym. Sean, it's almost like you didn't have the opportunity to be the one to take the lead here. But I got to make this clear before we move on. Both of these guys are already owned on Dynasty. And you always boast about how, you pick the right guys. You got the right guys on the squad. This definitely feels like a win for me and a loss for you. But how you feeling about this middleweight tilt?
Yes, I remember picking Paul Craig here and thinking, man, I remember picking him last in the draft. I think that was the last time, if I remember correctly, that we did the 8 picks. And it was like the last pick I had, and I was like, listen, it's Paul Craig. It's better than the prospects that were also on that card. So I took him, and I have regretted it ever since. I was like, you know what? He was solid at light heavyweight. He's good at this division now. He had that first win. It has not worked in my favor here, and this is definitely not one of those cases where it's going to work again. As much as I like to see blonde hair Paul Craig, I think this is not going to be a fight for him. I think both of these guys aren't that great in the stand-up. They're both not strikers to me. I honestly do. I don't think Craig is the greatest striker. I don't think he's too efficient. And while I think, I'm terrible with names here. If you're new to the show, I just want to let you know I can't say a single name correctly. But I think Baraujo, is that right? Am I right there? There's no way I'm saying that right. But
I like that you added the E there.
What is it?
You turned it into Baraujo. It's Borjas.
Yeah.
There's 2
Borjas.
H.
Borjas. Okay, Borjas. Okay.
It's like Ohio.
So, yeah, I got it. There you go. All right, so for Borjas, all right, I think his advantage is in the striking here. While I don't think it's the greatest I've ever seen or even strong in my opinion, I do think he's fundamentally much better here. I think they're both good grapplers, honestly, but I do see, like, with Paul Craig, I think he struggles with the stand-up, and honestly, I see him getting cracked, and I honestly, this sucks to say, it really does, but I think Craig goes to sleep, honestly, in round 3, so I'm taking Paul Craig to lose, even though I don't want to say it because I have him, I can't pick him in good conscience here, so Craig, my bad, bro, but you going down.
Yo, you're not even picking Caio to win. You're picking Paul Craig to lose.
Yeah, I respect
that. I respect that. There's honor in that. I agree and I disagree. I think Caio Borjas I think his problem isn't his striking. I think his problem is his confidence in his striking. I think his striking is very serviceable for this division specifically. I think what he's able to do, just given how imposing he is, and his when he's going, man, this guy has a lot of go, right? Like when he's going, this guy's tank is clearly huge, and he has a big well to draw upon when it comes to that. But ultimately, at the Fight Nerds camp, I think they just value going where you're the strongest, and I think honestly that might catch up to him in this fight. I think this is really going to be a big gut check moment for Kaio, where, yeah. In the past, even when you're having success on the feet, you just feel much more comfortable in the grappling exchanges, that even if you're hurting someone or constantly landing on them, you find a way to bring it to the grappling. And I respect it, You love where you're strong. I get it. But in this matchup specifically, I think even if he's winning and controlling Paul Craig for 2.5 rounds, as we saw against Ankalaev, at any point he can land a dangerous submission that could just get Kaio out of there. So this matchup is very hard for the instincts of one Kaio Borjas and what he likes to do out there. I think if he's willing to fight for matchup, right? This is, in my opinion, fights like this is where prospects really solidify themselves as actual prospects. If you can go out there and fight against type, right? You're fighting against your usual understanding of your own skills, because in this matchup, the other skills suit you better. I think that is really what separates fucking prospects as we move forward. I love this opportunity for him, and I think it's a soft enough test where we don't feel like worried, but at the same time, it's going to force something out of him that we haven't seen, which is the perfect place to be, in my opinion, for a blue chipper. So I think Kaio has a little bit more hype than is deserved as far as what he put on tape so far, especially how wide the line is. But I think ultimately Kaio should be able to get the job done here. And I agree. I think if he is persistent with his striking, I think he might be able to knock him out in the first, let alone the third. So good luck, Kaio. I'm picking you once again, and I'm a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. This is a bad stylistic matchup for him in that way, just because instinctually, man, at some point, I promise you, he's going to shoot a double leg and land it. And you're going to see as soon as the drive is there, and as soon as Paul Craig's legs go off the feet, he's going to say, oh, shit, really? Thank you. And immediately begin to get to work on the ground. I think, once again, that instinct to mix things up can definitely be his downfall here. But give me young Kaio Borjas. Next up, we are moving on to, once again, the Division of Kings, the middleweight division. We have Michel Pereira, who's been on an absolute tear up in middleweight, minus 520, going up against Ihor Potieria, the Ihor himself. Honestly, there's nothing that makes me happier than looking at a matchup on paper where it feels like, God damn it, Pereira about to fuck somebody up. Like we're going to see some absolute violence here. And honestly, I hate that the original matchup, which included Mahmoud Muradov, fell through, because I thought that was probably the best fight on this card. As far as, no, I lied. The main event is clearly the best fight on this card. But as far as the undercard and the prelims, the main card, I thought this was the gem, right? But we don't get that fight, right? So let's stop talking about it. This is the fight we get. And ultimately, Ihor Potieria, the duelist, I love his aura, right? His mystique, what he brings as far as who he thinks he is, right? It's kind of like the Yuri Prohachka aura, right? There's something very unique about this guy. Just because he's unique doesn't mean I like it, right? Or I like him. It's very strange, but he is committed to the bit, goddammit, and I respect that. And this is a Michel Pereira that is no longer committed to the bit. He is committed to greatness. And this was a step that I didn't really see him taking, especially after losing to Tristan Connolly. But in a match like this, once again, I led with my head out on the chopping block, made it clear I'm going Pereira here, and I'm going Pereira big. And of course, I have him on Dynasty, so I got a lot of stock in him. It makes sense why I'd go that way. But honestly, this is the one fight on the card, regardless of odds, regardless of anything, that if Ihor Potieria wins, I'll be genuinely shocked. Like, I'll be genuinely Sean Strickland, Izzy Adesanya level of, oh shit. And that's out of every fight on this card. In my opinion, this is the most definitive I feel about either of them. I just think Pereira is going to be absolutely huge in there against Potiera and should be able to get him out of there within the first 2 rounds.
Yeah, this is one of those where I felt, honestly, I felt the same thing when Ihor took that short notice fight last time against, no way I'm going to say his name right, but Robert Brichek, I don't fucking know. But that was who I picked in Dynasty too, and I felt like, all right, that's going to be a solid win. The odds were so crazy, but, you know, I give Ihor a lot of fucking credit. Man, he took that fight on short notice, even though he didn't make weight, and that was what I always say. I say if you miss by like 2.5 to 3 pounds, then I feel like it kind of gives you a little bit of an advantage because not having to cut that weight helps you out when it comes to fight night. And, you know, obviously he ended up winning. So I don't like Ihor because he hurt my dynasty pretty significantly. But this is definitely one of those where since Pereira has gone to this weight class, he's just been an absolute force. And I think they purposely made this fight for this card at this time, even though the fight had, you know, the original fight fell through. Fighting someone like Ihor, I think Pereira is just better in almost every category here: the striking, the wrestling, the grappling. Obviously, having the black belt in BJJ. I think the cardio is actually the only thing where it might be remotely even, or even I would favor Ihor a little bit there. But I think regardless, I don't even see this fight going to the end. Pereira just looks absolutely incredible for this weight class. He's looked even more dynamic than he did when his last time he lost, which was like 5 or 7. He's got a 7-fight win streak, which was like 4.5 years ago, which is crazy to even think about. That it's been almost 5 years since he lost last. So I think Pereira. Honestly, I'm going second round knockout. If it even gets to the second round, I think this one could even end in the first. But to keep it safe, I think Pereira is just a much more dominant guy here. If this doesn't get knocked out, I see this going to the ground. And Pereira's BJJ is just going to be absolutely overwhelming. And like you said, I think this is one of the more one-sided fights on this card. And yeah, I think Pereira takes it.
Astute observations by one Sean Negrong. Next up, we've got Anthony Lionheart Smith plus 420. Just blaze. You love to see it. Going up against Vitor Petrino minus 600. And I hope that you're pumped up because you have Vitor Petrino. I hope that's the reason why you're pumped up and not
right.
because Anthony Smith on the card. I would be real with you guys, right? I love me some Anthony Smith, right? But the more you look back on that resume, right? No, as far as the story and the man, I've got appreciation for him. And I think he's a much better analyst and will be a much better analyst than he ever was a fighter. And that's no disrespect because how he wins and how he achieves his greatness as a fighter is the opposite of what you would think would make for a good analyst. And I know that sounds fucked up, right? That sounds like I'm really shitting on him here. But in all honesty, his brute athleticism and willingness to put the fucking gonads and strife on the line is what ultimately wins him fights. I think, once again, this fight is a lot closer than the line appears. And I know you're probably shocked by this, Sean. You're probably shocked that I would have the audacity to say something like that. But in all honesty, I do think that Anthony Smith, once again, after I'd said it the last time and he got absolutely knocked the fuck out against Khalil Roundtree, I think if he shows up in the right headspace, right, which at this stage of his career, I'm not sure exists anymore. But if he shows up in the right headspace, I think he can honestly dominate this fight from the outside between leg kicks, between body work, teep kicks, particularly the jab. I just feel like with all the fighters on this card, Factory X, Mark Montoya, let's just lock in here, right? Let's make sure that no matter what happens here, you are fighting to your advantages. Because if you lose, right? Fuck it. But fight to your advantages. Give yourself every chance you have. And if we see a technical Anthony Smith, this might be a closer fight than we'd imagine. But even if technical Anthony Smith shows up, I still am picking Vitor Petrino here. I think he has, once again, that Brazilian buff is just on another level here. And I think I've mostly picked Brazilians for the entirety of this card, which might come to bite me in the ass, right? But I really do feel that Petrino is just an absolute beast at this weight class. And I think he's going to end up popping off Anthony Smith's head with some kind of a choke submission. I'm going to go guillotine. Give me Vitor Petrino.
Nice. I like that. I'm picking Petrino as well. One, because I think
against Bogdan Guskov, you know this is a both of your dynasty fighters fighting each other situation, right?
Yes. Thank you. I know.
That is not true, ladies and gentlemen. He does not own Anthony Smith.
I would never own Anthony Smith in my lifetime.
Bogdan Guskov, who is his identical twin. Continue. Sorry for the interruption.
I would never own Anthony Smith. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah, he'll fuck you up, Belly. He'll fuck you up.
I would hope so. He's been in the UFC for 9 years. I would hope he could. I like you said, I like Anthony Smith for who the person is. I think his time has come. Honestly, every time I find out he's still fighting, I kind of get more and more nervous for him. I think his time has come to an end. I get it. He still wants to fight, and I get it. You still go because you're still in the ranked. You think you're only like a fight or two away. We were having a discussion off air not too long ago where I thought it was preposterous that he was out there talking like he was one fight away from a title fight. You were telling me, you were like, yeah, you know what, he kind of is, because of how this division was weighing out, and I was like, this is ridiculous. That dude sucks. He's done. He's washed. It's over. And I still think he lost to Ryan Spann in that second fight. I don't care what anybody says.
Bullshit.
And he should not have won, but they had to give it to him. And I think honestly, I would say Vitor would win first round, but I think his last fight against Tyson Pedro was kind of like a wake up call for him. I think people expected him to just walk right through Pedro, and I gave Pedro a lot of credit for that fight, even though while Vitor was more dominant and it went to UD, I think it kind of woke Petrino up a little bit. But in this fight, I just think that this is kind of like the new taking out the old. Petrino is just much more dominant with the speed, the power. Smith's chin is nowhere near what it once was. We've seen him get cracked. We've seen him go down. I think I said this to you last time he fought. I wish he would stop fighting because I do like the person. I just don't think he should keep doing this, especially when your title chances and what you're trying to go for seems like out the window at this point. Well, I'll give you a lot of credit for the whole John Jones situation that happened all those years ago. I wish you would just be a full-time commentator and do your thing there, but both have great cardio. I'm not going to take that away, but I just think Petrino's just much stronger here and a lot faster than Smith's even prepared for. And I think this is a perfect fight it's not the co-main, but it's close to get this crowd all electric and fired up for what the co-main event is going to be. And I say Petrino wins via knockout. I'll say at the end of the third round.
I like the way you're thinking, man, especially when we're on the same page. We have arrived to our co-main event, which is kind of crazy to believe, right? This is a co-main event. But honestly, I would love to see this fight as a 5-rounder. Sadly, it is a 3-rounder, but we've got Jonathan Martinez, Sean, Dynasty man guy. Sorry, my English is fading as this show continues on. But he is your beloved, going up against the UFC Hall of Famer. Nothing brought me more emotion, right? More raw feelings than watching Jose Aldo get inducted to the Hall of Fame and just be in absolute shambles, right? Just crying, absolutely beside himself, has no idea how to put it all together into words, as he's just so excited and so happy to be inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame, and then just says, you know what? We ain't done yet, baby. Y'all coming back to Rio? Say less. And honestly, I love that you get to go first here, Sean, because I've got a lot of hot takes on this fight. So I'll let you begin. How you feeling about your Dynasty beloved?
Honestly, this is tough, man, because uh, seeing Jose come back is an incredible thing to see. I always love seeing the fighters that like were in their prime when I started watching, and it makes you feel old when their time is up or when they retire, and then you just wonder like, where the fuck did the time go, man? Like, where did the time go? That the whole Jose Aldo run, obviously losing to Connor and whatever it was, those 8, 9, 10 seconds is what everyone remembers. All the new UFC fans that have come in, that come now, because even though they try to pretend like they hate Connor, that's the reason they came into the sport. I don't care what anybody says, but this is tough, man. Like, I don't want to see Aldo lose, and I think this is such an incredible moment to just get inducted to the Hall of Fame, and then to just get this surprising fight announced that he's coming back perfectly in Brazil. And like, this is tough, man. This is honestly tough. Like, I still have this in my notes as like prediction, and I have it blank because I don't know what I want to choose. I still don't know. Like, this is tough. Like, if I had to really honestly pick, I'm gonna pick Martinez here, and I don't want to. In no capacity do I want to. And I can honestly see a situation where Aldo coming back after all this time. If this was a 5-round fight, man, I would pick Aldo all day here. But I think that this is one where ring rust is so real. It is really hard to come back from this much time. And, as much as Aldo's greatness has, created his name and why he's in the Hall of Fame, I just think Martinez's time is here and it's right now. He's climbing. And I see this one. Honestly, I hope and pray for every moment that Aldo wins this fight. But I just see, with experience of currently right now, I think Martinez takes this. I think this one is an absolute stand-up war between the two. I don't see any of these two guys grappling with each other for the takedowns too much. I wish this was 5 rounds, but because it's only 3, that's why I give Martinez the edge here. I think this one is unanimous decision. This could even be split, but I still think Martinez takes this 2 rounds to 1.
2 rounds to 1 is a very interesting outcome there. So here is my hot take. First of all, my headphones are in shambles, which you hate to see, right? Just absolutely making me look ridiculous. But second of all, I really love this matchup for both of these guys. I think obviously the path to victory is there for one Jonathan Martinez as far as staying consistent, landing a little bit more punches than usual, and ultimately just trying to really out brute strength Jose Aldo at this stage of their career. I think ultimately what makes this fight so fascinating to me is, I think, once again, we have one of the best leg kickers in the game against one of the absolute best of all time at not only checking but avoiding leg kicks. I think Jose Aldo's overall skill set in this matchup is what's going to shine and what's going to win the night. I think Jose Aldo is one of my more confident picks here. I think he's just such a rooted veteran of this game that knows how to really set people off of their timing, set people off of what they want to do through technique and skill. And I think ultimately, as this one continues into the second and into the third round, Jose Aldo is going to have a real beat on what Jonathan Martinez is trying to do. And between the slick jab and being able to neutralize Jonathan Martinez leg kicks, I think ultimately Jose Aldo is going to look better than his prime, is going to be looking like someone that can potentially contend for the title very soon. And honestly, if you look back at his run at 135, yes, it's been a while, but ultimately he was in there, and ultimately he lost, but he was in that fight against Peter Yan and made it very, very close, a lot closer than people remember. And I think he is still at that level at bantamweight, even more so with this experience that he's gained in the boxing side of things. So I think ultimately, honestly, before he retired, I probably would feel a little bit more confident in Jonathan Martinez putting a little bit of sting on those punches and really putting some things together. But I think ultimately having this time off, jumping back into the game, the king of Rio, in Rio de Janeiro. There's no way this man loses in front of his home crowd. So give me Scarface, Jose Aldo, ladies and gentlemen. You love to see it.
Well, that's actually I wanted to ask you two questions. One, I'll ask you this one before I ask this next one. Do you think with Jose doing I think 2 or 3 boxing matches since his time, even fighting for Masvidal's little promotion not too long ago, do you see that as an advantage for Jose going into this fight, or do you think that because you go into boxing and you kind of step away from MMA for 2-something years, that that's gonna be a disadvantage?
Yeah, well, I think I already answered this one a little bit, but I just feel like even before he went into these boxing forays, I thought he was a cleaner to more technical boxer than Jonathan Martinez ever has been. I think his jab is one of the best jabs in MMA. In all honesty, retreating off, being the one on the offensive, Jose Aldo's jab is lights out, man. And I think that's what separates him, especially in this matchup. Jonathan Martinez is so reliant on taking your wheels away in order to start landing more as the fight goes on. And I think the only way, honestly, we really see a Jonathan Martinez win is with something surprising that just knocks out Aldo. Like that's the real path to victory for me, at least here, just because I feel like technically Jonathan Martinez is just going to be outmatched. I don't think he's looked vulnerable at all in that way. Which is remarkable to think considering how long this man has been fighting for. This guy is an absolute war, excuse me, war horse of the highest order. And I'm really excited to see how this one plays out because I think regardless of him taking this time away for boxing, he's always been the better boxer. But now the fact that that's even more dialed in, and I promise you those other skills haven't left either, definitely has me feeling confident about Jose. So what's your second question, Sean?
My second question has to do with the outcome of this fight. Obviously, you said Aldo to win. He can even potentially keep going in this. I talked to you about this off air. I wanted to ask you more of, let's say he loses, right? I think this is kind of based off of if he wins, I think he does keep going. But let's say he loses, unfortunately. I hope he doesn't. Honestly, I hate that I had to pick Martinez. I hope Aldo wins fucking in 10 seconds. I don't care how long it takes. But if Aldo loses, right, in Brazil, become 31-9, he's done 40 professional fights. Do you think that he'll continue to fight after this, or do you think that this is, he took his time off, like you said before, and then this is kind of like a short comeback now. He's going to have 2 or 3 more fights after this, no matter what.
Great question, man. Great question. Honestly, for my sanity, I would hope it's not anything more than a let's figure out if we got one more run in us kind of thing. I won't be surprised, honestly, if he just does one and done and ends up signing somewhere else in free agency. Like, I think that's a real possibility for Jose Aldo at this stage of his career. But at the same time, I tend to just feel that, unfortunately, despite him retiring and becoming a Hall of Famer first ballot, I think it's sad to say, but someone that's been on top of the game for so many years, right? So many years of his life. I think this might be a little bit harder for him to step away than most people, which makes me really sad because only sadness follows those kinds of stories. I won't be surprised if this is one and done with the UFC and he goes on to other things. I won't be surprised if he loses and doesn't come back. But I think if he has multiple fights, as soon as he loses, he most likely will call it quits again. That's where I'm at. What about you? What do you think about that?
This is tough because I think, like I said to you off air, I think that this is, if he loses this one, I think he's done with the UFC. I don't think he'll ever give up fighting, like ever. I think he's kind of like a Pacquiao sort of situation here where Pacquiao fights forever. Even if it's not for, the biggest stage of them all, you'll always hear Pacquiao's name somewhere, or like Floyd, unfortunately. I think Aldo will always fight. I wish it would be in the UFC for, until you honestly could say you shouldn't fight anymore. And when Aldo retired the first time, I thought, like, okay, like, I don't, the fact that he had lost to Marab, I was like, you know what, it kind of makes sense. I understand it. It's your title shot or your title contending shot went out the window here. I could see why it's best to just let this go. But the fact that he had done the boxing thing, he's taken MMA off for, almost 2 years or close, a little over. I don't mind a little bit of a slight comeback here of 1 to 3 fights here. If he loses, I don't know, because at that point, you're losing to number 9. I don't really know what you could get after that. So maybe you say, listen, I tried. Maybe it isn't me. Or you look at it as, listen, I took 2 years off. I put up a hell of a fight against number 9. Let me try this one more time. Let me try this again. Because if he does go out there to Martinez and he gets, knocked out in the first minute and a half, it doesn't look close. It looks like CM Punk in the UFC. Then it's like, all right, forget it. You just forget it. Let's not do that again. But if it's a hell of a fight, and even if Martinez, like I predict, Martinez to win via split or even 2-1, then I'm like, all right, you got to do Aldo one more time. So I think that Aldo can continue to go. So it's tough to see. It's really tough to see, but I don't know. I think he's one and done here, but I would love to see more.
As I proceed to die on this side of the line, man, I'm sorry.
What the hell? What the hell did you die from? What did I say?
I'm a child. I started laughing because you said we just got to do Jose Aldo again with all kinds of conviction. And I'm here like, Sean, please. And then you didn't react at all. You just stonewalled me, and that sent me into a spiral.
Come on.
Honestly, it was me starting to laugh and you hearing just all the congestion, right? The sickness is real. I know you guys heard that. That's why I muted myself as quick as I could. That's what made me laugh the most. But I like the way you think, man. No matter how this plays out, I think we're on our way to some sadness regarding Jose Aldo, which makes sense why you picked Jonathan Martinez. But next up, the reason why we are all here, according to the UFC, that booked this fight on short notice like a motherfucker, we've got Alexandre Pantoja minus 190 going up against my Dynasty darling, one Steve Erceg, one of my favorite up-and-coming fighters on the roster. I honestly cannot wait to see how things go as we continue to explore the career of one young Steve Erceg. All right, hear me out here because I'm going to have a lot to say about this fight. I think the first thing I need to say, and I need to make this as clear as possible as early as I can, I genuinely believe in my heart of hearts that if anyone here thinks that Steve Erceg does not deserve this opportunity, you are biased. You are not looking at things clearly. Obviously, he had a lot of fortune with the way the cookie crumbled, so to speak, in this division and needing a challenger and having to figure something out sort of ASAP, right? But I think ultimately what makes me really excited about this fight is I think the skills speak for themselves. And obviously he got a big knockout in his last fight. But even before that, on the tape, in my opinion, is what has me so excited about him is his ability to really manage a fight and really find himself at his range where he likes to be, and staying there and picking you apart, man. He is someone that is willing to nickel and dime you. He's willing to take the smaller wins en route to the larger win. He's not someone that is urgent and that is really, I need to make this happen now. And I think ultimately that's what gives Steve Erceg a huge edge in this matchup. I think Pantoja really is someone that gets overeager because his physical gifts is really what carries him in this weight class. And I think he could really bring himself into a lot of trouble wading into that danger constantly in this matchup. Pantoja is clearly the more physically imposing athlete. I think that's very easy to say. I think he really puts the pressure on guys and largely in this fight will have Steve Erceg on the back foot. I think Pantoja's grappling here is really what gives him the check plus edge. I think he certainly has the better positional grappling and, of course, could find himself in a dominant position and submit Steve Erceg. I think that's a very real outcome to this fight. But ultimately, it's not the outcome I'm picking, right? I really do think that opportunity is the biggest O in MMA. And I think The fact that he got this opportunity and he took it really speaks a lot to who he is as a prospect. I'm picking Steve Erceg here. I think on the feet, he's going to be able to, once again, keep Alexandre Pantoja at bay for as long as possible. And it's going to get dicey. There's going to be, I would imagine, at least 2 rounds where he is controlled in the grappling. But I think ultimately Steve Erceg hasn't really had to show a lot of his proficiency there. And I think from what we've seen, especially in the Alessandro Costa fight, I think his grappling is fucking legit defensively. And he's really looking to make people pay for their decision making out there, which you love to see from a young fighter. And I think ultimately Steve Erceg just has the physical gifts in this matchup. He, despite being once again not a more forward type fighter, he's much larger than Alexandre Pantoja and clearly has, in my opinion, a little bit more firepower in the striking. I won't be surprised once again if Pantoja makes this look easy with the grappling. But I think ultimately this step up is really going to bring a lot out of Steve Erceg's game and really show us his upside when it comes to the grappling side of things. So really excited to watch this fight. I think this is the best fight hands down on this card. And I love that we get it for 5 rounds. I think it's a little earlier than I would have liked, right? In all honesty. And that's the thing that gives me pause. But I just have to reiterate this. Alexandre Pantoja goes life and death with everyone on this title run, right? We've seen that play out in each of his last fights. And at some point, that really does catch up to you, man. And I'm calling it right here. Give me Steve Erceg.
I like it. I like that you're choosing Erceg here. It's kind of like your baby here. So I can't agree with you though, and this is why I say this all the fucking time with experience and with waiting for the opportunity. Obviously for him, great. I'm happy he took the opportunity. This is a huge moment for him, and I love that. I love shit like that. Seeing a number 10 taking this opportunity. Granted, this whole division's a little bit fucked up right now. You got the champion who's beaten the number 1 and 2 a zillion times over. The division's kind of stuck. You're kind of waiting for these flyweights to kind of push their way to these top rankings. And honestly, I saw this as Erceg being right there. I thought Erceg was 1 fight away from fighting for the title. But the thing that bothers me is the fact that Erceg just came off of a fight night win versus Matt Schnell. And I think the difference between Matt Schnell to fighting Pantoja is a big difference here. And I think while Erceg's got the way better, I think, striking. I'm not trying to say Pantoja's striking isn't great. I think his cardio isn't that great. I think, if seeing both of these guys around 4 or 5 would be really interesting because I haven't seen Erceg in those rounds, and I think Pantoja gasses out pretty significantly by round 4. I think that's something that would be awesome to see, for both fighters. But I think Erceg will be a future champion. I think this fight will happen again. I just think this fight is a little too early. You've seen Pantoja face, the best of the best in this division and have absolute wars with these guys. And I think right now, this is Pantoja's time. Even if it's a short time period, I still think this is Pantoja's time. I think he's better, especially in the grappling. And I see even with Erceg's left hook and how much better he is in the stand up and keeping the distance and how much faster he is, I just see a way where Pantoja, just like he did against Moreno, just a constant attack for the grapple and the wrestling and the takedowns. I think that's going to be a significant issue for Erceg after the second and third round. I think if it even gets to that, which I think it will, I think Erceg will have a really difficult time, getting Pantoja off of him. And that's where I see this fight being the difference. I see Pantoja trying to stand up in the beginning, thinking he could take Erceg this way, but I think Pantoja we've seen in his last the Royval fight, the Moreno fight, even the Alex Perez fight, and the Royval fight before that. A lot of constant going after you, constantly attacking you to the point of takedowns, getting the rear naked choke, or at least attempting it. And I think that's what's going to be the difference here. I think this is going to be second round sub or even third round sub for Pantoja here, but I think this is a huge moment for Erceg because while taking this significant leap in in a challenge, fighting the champion after being ranked 10, I think he will fight Pantoja again, even if champion or not. This fight will definitely happen again. And at that point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights down the line, I think then I'd pick Erceg as the favorite here. But I think this is a beautiful moment for both Erceg and for Pantoja. I just think Pantoja claims the throne once again, adds the red little marble, the little ruby to his little championship run. And I see him taking this one for 301.
So not only are we going head to head in our picks, but we're going head to head on Dynasty on this one, which I absolutely love, right? We're picking our guy and we're sticking to it. And I promise that's not the bias speaking, at least on my part. Early on, I did feel a little bit more confident in Pantoja before I looked at the tape. But after I looked at the tape, man, I'm like, dude, this guy was able to neutralize people that were more physically imposing than Pantoja is in this division, on top of really, once again, just being super slick. So I'm not going to go back into my talking points again. But I do want to say this, and I think it's important that we leave on this note. Dana White, come here. Shame on you, brother. Shame on you. Because the fact that at one point we talked about nixing this division, and to think of the last 4 title fights in this division and what it's meant for the sport. Fuck the weight class. What is meant for the sport? You could argue the last 4 title fights in this, we had 3 fight of the year contenders. 3 fight of the year contenders come out of this flyweight division. This flyweight division is absolutely on fire right now. If you fucking mix all these names in a hat and have a Grand Prix, I cannot confidently tell you who wins. Like, it really comes down to matchup, who you face along the way, and how you're feeling on the night. Like, there's so many good fighters, bro. Kai Kara-France, Brandon Moreno, Steve Erceg in the mix, Alexander Pantoja in the mix, fucking Amir Albazi, the forgotten man at 125. And I'm sure I'm missing many people like Mokaev and other people who are on the way up as well. This division is absolutely one of my favorites in the UFC right now, just because of the way it's roared back since that absolute shout out to Luke Thomas, promotional malpractice there from fucking Dana White out here trying as hard as he can to just shoot himself in the foot, like he did when he originally got rid of the lightweight division. I'm thankful that they didn't get rid of flyweight, and we've got to see it flourish like this, man, because these title reigns have been absolutely insane. Well, Sean don't got shit to say to me about that.
Dude, what do you want me to say? That was an incredible closer, even though we're not done here. I was just like
no reaction, no agreement, just yeah, it's fucking great. I agree with you. I think ultimately this is going to be a really hard fight for Steve Erceg, and I know I sound very confident in him, but I really like a lot of the points you made. I think Pantoja's time is clearly here, and the fact that it's on the road, all odds are stacked against Erceg here. I'm surprised he's this small of a favorite, but I feel it. I feel it in my bones, goddammit. So, Sean, we forgot to tell the people where to find us off the top. So why don't you let all the great human beings that are part of this OTS family, why don't you let them know where they can find your amazing content?
All right. Well, after that, we still got stuff to do, but you can find me at bsreports.org. That's my website, and then at Sean Negron 26 is my Twitter. And if you ever want to get involved in the sports writing world, podcasting, whatever, just hit me up there on Twitter, and I will help you out.
You heard the man. And make sure you follow me on TikTok as well as Twitter, the X Machine, whatever you want to call it, at Negron MMA. And having a lot of fun posting content there recently. Got my most liked TikTok, the most recent post I did on a show that didn't include Sean. So maybe that's what's the problem here. Maybe I'm fucking with you. Make sure you're checking those accounts out, including the TSG MMA TikTok account as well. Make sure you check that out so that you can get all of our awesome content coming your way. And make sure you follow the brand at OTS Media Co. on all social media platforms, OTS Media on YouTube. But with all this being said, I cannot wait to get into my favorite part of the show. We've got UFC 301 Dynasty Draft, baby. I have the honor of making the first pick of the night. And there's a couple different ways I can go with this, right? But Sean, I think we all know which way I'm going. Myktybek Orolbai.
I saw that one coming. It sucks. See, this is tough because we have so many guys already. So to be, you know what? To be different, like I always am. I do need to get some people in certain weight classes here. So, fuck, I hate that you took Orolbai right there. This is the 1 week I wish I had the first pick. I will take what's his name? Where is he? Give me tough. I want to make sure you don't have him. Do you have him? No, you don't have him. But I'm picking him because you know what? This is why I wait until the moment of
into this until it's time to draft.
So you can talk all that shit that you want.
You see, like,
but who's the winner right now?
Wait.
I keep everyone guessing, all right? Because I don't like to do this day before or even until this moment, because then I can actually have a significant pick and why I picked them. And you know what? I might be different here because I only get 2 picks now because you had to ruin the freaking league and make it only 4 picks instead of 8. Yeah, you know me. I'm never going to pick that one.
We would have had a total of the entire card on our team if we continued.
That's the whole point, all right? That was the whole point of the whole thing, all right? Give me Jack Shore, just to be different. And then, see, this is the tough one because I'm back and forth with 2 people right now. Back and forth. This is not what I wanted. It's not what you want to see. Hey, this guy hates, but he's the one losing. But I don't want to. I don't want to.
It's not going to take this long. I promise y'all that. Right?
Yeah, I don't. I don't want to go 1-1. So you know what? Give me
2 like last week. You know, you got to make that clear.
No, well, because these guys, I was going to pick 2 guys that were fighting each other. But
still do that. Joanderson Brito's a great pick.
Yeah, it's tough, you know. It's, you know, you sit here with these tough. I'm just fucking bullshitting you now.
Yeah, no, this is great radio.
Give me Brito. Give me Brito.
Close your eyes and hear this man like, I don't know who to pick. Hey, you got Joanne.
I'm going 1-1.
Dude, I am so happy right now because I want to make this very clear. You could have picked everybody else. I would not have picked Joanderson Brito or Jack Shore as my next pick. So I'm very happy.
This is why I'm winning.
With the 4th overall pick to select Iasmin Lucindo. I thought, honestly,
that's who I was going to pick.
When I was looking, I honestly thought that I had her already. So the fact that I didn't, and I was able to grab her here with the 4th pick on top of getting Orolbai, chef's kiss of a draft, if you ask me.
That's who I was going to pick. And I was like, you know what? You know me. It ain't going to be.
And why is that?
It's just, you know, it's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. You know, it's just.
That's what they call it, right? Sexy.
That's what they call it. Yeah. So, you know, I like to steer away from, you know, competent, you know, competitive fighters. So, you know, I'll give you that one. And that's who I was going to pick. But you know me, I can't take that pick. So that's all you.
I love it. Eventually, we will both get canceled for this, but it's okay. Sure. It's okay. As long as we're forthright, right? As long as you guys know where our heart lies. But God damn it, Sean, we did it again. Just absolutely turning in classics. This was awesome, and it's great to have you back once again. And let's make sure that this never happens again, right? Let's fucking keep it going, babies. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you're following us, as we all mentioned earlier. Make sure that you watch this card It's just going to be an absolute banger. But most importantly, come here. Make sure when you get inducted into the Hall of Fame that you really call it a day after that. Because once it's time for me to hang this jersey up, I promise y'all ain't go hear from me again. So until next time, always remember, the older you get, the sadder and more tragic this life becomes. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen.